You walk as if the ground is created for you alone.
Don't ever correct me again.
Adeze is beautiful, arrogant, and prideful, but her pride will bring her a curse she never saw coming. This is the story of a girl who slapped a spirit.
My daughter, the river that forgets its source will dry one day.
The river you speak of has never been as beautiful as I am. Pride comes before a fall. Oh my God, what is happening to me? I promise to be humble.
It is said that when pride grows taller than the Iroko tree, the wind begins to sharpen its teeth. And in the calm, beautiful village of Nkwo, where the mornings smelled of roasted corn and fresh palm wine, and the evenings hummed with the songs of returning farmers, pride once walked on two graceful legs. Her name was Adeze. Adeze was a tall, light-skinned Nigerian woman whose beauty was the kind that turned heads before she even turned the corner. When she walked through Nkwo's red earth paths, her waist swayed like a royal procession, and her chin lifted as though she carried an invisible crown. Her skin glowed like the first light of dawn, and her eyes shone with a confidence that bordered on defiance. But beauty, like fire, warms and burns. Adeze knew she was beautiful, and she did not merely know it. She wore it like armor. Her laughter was sharp, her words sharper. She dismissed greetings from elders with a careless nod. She mocked the girls who did not measure up to her standard. She looked at young men as though they were ants scrambling at her feet. "Is that all?" she would say
Is
with
that
a smirk
all?
when a suitor
I don't
brought
want you to
gifts
ever
of
come back
coconuts
here
or
again.
yams. In Nkwo, humility was currency. Respect was breath. And yet, Adeze breathed pride as if it were the only air worth inhaling. The elders noticed. Old Mama Nkwo, whose back had bent under the weight of 70 harvests, once called out to her, "My daughter, the river that forgets its source will dry one day." Adeze paused, only long enough to flash a dazzling smile. "Mama, the river you speak of has never been as beautiful as I am." Gasps followed her like shadows. In the market square, whispers grew like weeds. She will learn. Beauty is not a shield against destiny. But Adeze did not hear them, or perhaps she did, and simply chose not to care. Every evening, as the sun sank behind the raffia palms and painted the sky in bruised oranges and purples, Adeze would sit outside her father's compound, admiring her reflection in a polished brass tray. She would tilt her head this way and that, adjusting her coral beads, smoothing her wrapper, studying herself the way a queen studies her kingdom. And each night, just as the last bird call faded, something strange would happen. A wind would rise. Not the playful wind that teased the mango trees. Not the gentle wind that cooled tired farmers. No, this wind moved with intention. It circled her. It whispered. It tugged lightly at her wrapper, as though trying to speak a language she refused to understand. The first time it happened, Adeze frowned. The second time, she laughed. The third time, she heard it. A voice. Soft. Low. Almost tender. Pride tastes sweet before it turns bitter. She sprang to her feet, heart pounding like a village drum during festival. Her eyes darted around the empty compound. The moon hung quietly above. No one was there. "Who was playing tricks?" she demanded, her voice steady, though her fingers trembled. Silence answered. But the wind did not leave. It brushed her cheek, cold as a warning. The next morning, Nkwo woke to troubling news. A young hunter named Obinna Strong, fearless Obinna, had vanished in the forest near the ancient silk cotton tree, the one the elders warned no one to disturb. His hunting bag was found torn. His footprints ended abruptly, as though the earth had swallowed him whole. Fear spread through the village like wildfire through dry grass. The elders gathered. Drums were beaten softly, not in celebration, but in caution. That night, as Adeze sat again outside her compound, determined to prove her bravery, the wind returned. Stronger, colder. This time, it did not whisper. It laughed. Low and echoing, like something ancient stirring from a long sleep. Adeze's pride flickered just for a moment, like a candle threatened by storm. And then, from the direction of the forest, she saw it. A figure. Tall. Still. Watching. Her breath caught in her throat. The figure did not move closer. But she felt it, the weight of its gaze, heavy as judgment. For the first time in her life, Adeze felt small. Very small, and somewhere in the darkness, beyond the trees, beyond the silk cotton trunk that had stood for centuries, something shifted. Nkwo had been calm. Nkwo had been beautiful. But when pride walks too boldly beneath the eyes of unseen spirits, even the quietest village begins to listen to the sound of approaching footsteps. And Adeze had just taken the first step into a story she could not control. The elders tried. Her mother wept in secret. Her father warned her in stern whispers. Even the strange wind that circled her each evening seemed to plead with invisible fingers. But pride had built its palace in Adeze's heart, and she guarded its gates fiercely. Days passed. Obinna was never found. The forest grew quieter, as though it were watching, and yet Adeze walked, as she always had, chin high, eyes half-lidded in disdain, steps confident as a peacock displaying its feathers. Then the day finally came. It was Nkwo Market Day. The village square buzzed like a beehive. Women spreading wrappers on the ground, traders arranging tomatoes in neat pyramids, children darting between legs like playful goats. The sun burned bright above, merciless and watchful. Adeze walked through the market as though the earth had rolled itself out for her arrival. Her coral beads clinked softly. Her wrapper hugged her tall frame, heads turned as they always did. And then she passed him, an old man. He stood by the roadside beneath a withered udala tree. His back was bent like a question mark. His beard was long and white, brushing his chest. His clothes were simple, almost too simple, the kind no one could remember seeing him wear before. Adeze swept past him without a glance. Adem, the old man called, his voice dry like harmattan wind. Is this how the daughter of Nkwo greets an elder? She stopped. Slowly, the market seemed to hush. Adeze turned, her brows arching in irritation. Who are you to question me? The old man's eyes were strange, deep, endless, as though seasons lived inside them. In this land, even the smallest child knows to greet gray hair. Why did you pass me like a shadow? Her pride flared like dry leaves catching fire. Old man, she snapped, stepping closer. Respect is earned, not begged for on the roadside. A murmur rippled through the traders nearby. The old man straightened slightly. Child, pride is a masquerade that dances without knowing the drum will one day stop. The words struck her ego like a slap, and in her fury, she raised her hand and slapped him. The sound cracked through the market square, like thunder splitting a palm tree. Gasps erupted. A calabash fell and shattered. Even the sun seemed to freeze. For a moment, nothing moved. The old man did not stagger. He did not fall. Instead, he slowly lifted his face and smiled. Not kindly, not angrily, but knowingly. The wind rose. That same wind, stronger than ever before. The traders began to step back. A mother grabbed her child. The air grew heavy, thick, as though the sky itself had lowered to witness what would follow. Apologize, the old man said quietly. Adeze crossed her arms. Never. Apologize, he repeated, and this time his voice was no longer frail. It echoed, layered, ancient, like many voices speaking at once. She laughed. Apologize? To you? The old man's eyes darkened. Very well. The ground trembled beneath their feet. You worshipped your beauty, he said, his voice now like distant thunder rolling over hills. You treated humility as weakness and respect as poverty. Since beauty is your god, Let us see how you live without it. Adeze felt a sudden dryness crawl across her skin. She touched her cheek. It felt rough. A gasp escaped her lips. Before the stunned villagers, her glowing skin began to crack like dry earth in drought. The smooth radiance faded. Dark patches spread like spilled ink. Her lips lost their fullness. Her eyes sank slightly into her face. She screamed, her once silky hair thinned, strands falling like defeated soldiers to the dusty ground. No, she cried, clutching her face. The old man's voice boomed. All your beauty shall dry up. You shall become so ugly that even the village rat will be more valued and more beautiful than you. A collective cry rose from Nkwo. Within moments, the transformation was complete. Where the radiant Adeze once stood, now trembled a figure almost unrecognizable. Her skin was shriveled, her posture bent, her reflection in a fallen brass tray showing a face she could not accept. Tears streamed down her altered cheeks. She fell to her knees. "Please, I take it back. I am sorry," she whispered, her voice broken. But the old man had already begun to fade. His body shimmered like heat waves over dry land. "Lessons ignored are lessons enforced," he said, his form dissolving into wind. "May humility be your only mirror now." And he vanished. The market remained frozen in stunned silence. Adeze, once the pride of Nkwo, once the beauty that walked like royalty, crawled toward the dust, sobbing, her arrogance shattered like the calabash at her feet. From that day on, children no longer ran to admire her. Suitors no longer lingered. Near her father's compound, she covered her face when she walked, her steps no longer proud but heavy with regret. The same elders she once ignored became the only ones who showed her mercy. And slowly, painfully, like a stubborn seed breaking through hard soil, humility began to grow within her. Nkwo returned to its calm rhythm. But whenever a young girl in the village begins to boast too loudly of her beauty, the elders still tell the story of Adeze, the woman who slapped a spirit and watched her pride dry up before her eyes. For beauty is a visitor. Character is a resident. And that was how Adeze met her doom and finally learned her lesson.